Hi guys, Mimi G here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on one of my Simplicity Summer Patterns 3140, and we're going to be working with the top. We're going to do a second video for the skirt, so if you want to do the top, this is the video for that.
Okay, we're going to work on my Simplicity 3140. We're working on the top. I've made the skirt and the top in separate videos for you guys. Remember that on the back of the pattern envelope, we give you fabric suggestions and any notions that you're going to need for the project. Let's go over our pattern pieces. You're going to cut pattern piece number 6, which is the front hem facing. Now it says fabric cut 1, interfacing cut 1. When I did this for photographs, I did not interface it, and I really preferred it that way. I did try it as interfaced, and I just didn't like how it felt. So because my fabric was stretchy enough, I didn't feel the need to interface the hem facing. So it's totally up to you if you want to do it or not. Then you're going to cut pattern piece number 7, which is the back hem facing, and you're going to cut it on the fold. Number 5 is our sleeve. You're going to cut 2. Pattern piece number 2 is our left front. You're going to cut 1. Number 1 is our front, and you're going to cut 1. Then we have pattern piece 3, our back. You're going to cut 1. Then we have our elastic guide for the neck. Now this is another place where I decided not to use the elastic. After I made it, I just didn't feel the need. My fabric is very stretchy and the neckline laid perfectly flat without it, so I didn't want to add any further elastic to the neckline, but again, that is a personal choice. Okay, now we can start sewing. Now we're going to start with pattern piece number 1, which is the front. You're going to gather between those 2 notches. So go ahead and make 2 rows of gathering stitches between the notches that you see. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull some of the gathering and then start pinning right sides are facing. So I'm going to go ahead and pin. I'm going to pin the other end as well. And then I'll just pull my gathering stitches until it fits. And then go ahead and start distributing the gathers so that they are even. Now stitch across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, let's go ahead and attach the left top. So you have that little piece that we have. We're going to go ahead and align it, making sure that the notches are matching. You want to make sure you're placing it in the right direction. Go ahead and pin. Now we're going to go ahead and stitch across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so for the neckline, I went ahead and gave myself a 5/8 of an inch seam guide. I'm going to use that to press. Now I'm not using the elastic, but I am going to show you where to place it. So you want to make sure that the elastic is sitting inside of the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and not outside of it, because you want to make sure that when you fold that over, the elastic is sitting within your seam allowance. Now I'm going to press my 5/8 of an inch, and then I'll bring the cut edge to the pressed edge to do the double fold. Now I've started pinning my double fold, but I wanted to point out that you need to stop when we're top stitching 3 inches before you reach the end. So although you will see me pin the double fold even at the end, I am actually not going to stitch it, right? So right here where I'm holding the fabric, I'm going to make sure to stop 3 inches before I reach that, because we're going to need that opening when we attach that portion to the front of the bodice. So just go ahead and pin the double fold, but remember that we're going to stop 3 inches before we reach the narrow end. We're going to head to the sewing machine and stitch close to the folded edge. Okay, so as you can see, I left about 3 inches unstitched because like I said, we're gonna need that open so that we can attach the left front. So with right sides facing, you're gonna go ahead and grab that little narrow piece and we're gonna line up making sure that the notches match. There's a notch on both pieces. And we're gonna go ahead and pin that in place. And then at the sewing machine, we're gonna stitch it down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now to finish that off, I'm just gonna turn under that 5/8, and then on the front side, you're gonna go ahead and continue stitching. So I'm gonna pin to hold it down, and then following where my existing stitching is, I'm just gonna continue that top stitch. Awesome. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and sew our side seams. So my right sides are facing. You're gonna go ahead and pin your side seam. You're gonna pin your other side seam the same exact way. And then we're gonna head to the sewing machine and we're gonna stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so this would be a really great time for you to try your shirt on to make sure that it's fitted and you like it and you don't need to take anything in or let anything out before we attach our facings. You're going to go ahead and grab your front and back facings. You're going to place them right sides facing, and we're going to go ahead and stitch the sides down. But remember that if you made any adjustment to the bodice, you're going to need to make that same adjustment to the facing. If you took more in on the side seams, you'll need to do the same on your facing pieces. Now the bottom of the bodice as well as your facing pieces do have notches. So you want to make sure that you are placing the right side on the right side, meaning aligning the double notch to the double notch. We're going to go ahead and pin our side seams first and continue pinning all the way around. Now once you have your entire facing pinned, we can go ahead to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that it's attached, we're going to go ahead and trim some of that seam allowance down before understitching. So once you do that, you're going to go ahead and then understitch after you have trimmed off and then press the facing to the inside. Okay, now you're going to go ahead and understitch the entire facing. Now that you have it understitched, it's much easier to turn under and we can go ahead and pin it in place. You're going to start pinning at your side seam and then you're going to pin the entire facing just like you see here all the way around. Now that our facing is in place, we can go ahead and top stitch 1 inch from the edge. Let's go ahead and grab our sleeves and placing them right sides facing, you're going to go ahead and pin. You're going to pin each underarm the same exact way, folding in half, right sides facing and pinning. Okay, now head to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I've already attached one sleeve, so let's go ahead and attach the other. I first like to start pinning at the underarm seam, matching the underarm seam to the side seam, and I pin. And then I like to work from the inside. I next pin any notches that I have, including the shoulder notch that I give myself. And then we're going to go ahead and continue pinning, making sure that that sleeve cap gets eased in. Now, because we're working with a knit, we don't need to create easing stitches that we need to pull. Instead, you're just going to distribute this, and then as you sew, you're going to slightly stretch to make the sleeve fit onto the arm's eye. Once your sleeve is pinned in place, we're going to head to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay guys, all you have left to do is to finish the hem of your sleeve. Give this a good press and you are all done.
As usual, I hope you guys enjoyed this so long. Make sure and follow me on Instagram if you're not following already at Mimi G Style so I can see all of your amazing makes. Until next time, peace.